What if you could map out an entire AI film using character-consistent AI generations without switching between 5 different tools and do it unlimited times per month? I just spent some time testing Freepik's new node-based workflow system, and here's how it might be the biggest workflow shift in AI filmmaking yet. So why does this new Freepik Spaces tool matter in the context of AI filmmaking? Think about this. We finally have really good talking models like Veo 3.1 and Wan 2.5, and apparently Grok Video.
You must repent.
Eat lead!
We've got to find the rat, or we're all dead.
And character consistency tools like Nano Banana and Seedream 4. But the problem is, this current AI filmmaking workflow is chaos. For example, need to test 3 different approaches to a scene? You're losing track of which version came from which tool. Need to iterate on a character design across 10 different scenarios? You're reprompting base traits every single time. Building a storyboard sequence? Each shot is a separate generation across multiple tools. With Freepik's Spaces, they say, do all of that in one node-based workflow builder with unlimited generations. What this actually means is you can now see your entire narrative sequence from a bird's eye view, all your scenes, all your camera angles, one canvas. So how does Freepik Spaces actually let you see your entire narrative laid out on one canvas without juggling multiple browser tabs? Let's jump right into the video. Now, some of you may be familiar with ComfyUI, and this is one of the more popular node-based type workflows because it allows you almost unlimited customization for AI text to image, image to video, etc. And a basic Comfy workflow has an input such as the model, your prompt boxes, and it does all this magical stuff so that you get an image output or a video output at the end. With Freepik Spaces, it's pretty much the exact same concept, but of course it doesn't allow for the very detailed customization that you'd get from ComfyUI. And that's okay because out the box, Comfy can be very intimidating for someone who has no experience with node-based workflows. And I'd actually argue that if you start with something like Freepik Spaces, this will help you to get a better understanding of how ComfyUI works. Or if you just dabbled with ComfyUI, this may help to further cement your understanding of everything that's actually going on. So like what I just showed you with ComfyUI, you have a box right here that can contain your prompt. They also have something called an assistant to where you can write a prompt and then it comes up with a version of your prompt that's enhanced. You have a node for image generation. You have a node that allows you to upscale your images, and you have a video node that allows you to select the many and latest video AI models, including expensive ass Veo 3.1. And like ComfyUI, once you connect all of these nodes together, running the workflow is meant to give you an output at the end. Now, not to worry, I'm going to give you a very basic walkthrough of how all of this connects together right now. Okay, so if you're not familiar with node-based workflows, I'm going to show you a very basic workflow to give you an idea of how all of this works. I'm going to keep it very, very, very simple so that it's not overwhelming for you. Now, what I've already done is I've pressed this button to upload my image, and it's right here on this canvas. And this is the particular workflow that I want to follow. I'm going to make the image that I want to style this reference photo with in Midjourney, but I'm actually not going to use the image. I'm just going to use the prompt, and I'll explain all of that in a minute. There are many ways of doing essentially style transfers with Nano Banana or Seedream. This particular workflow that I'm going to show you works out really well, so let me just go ahead and walk through it. So I'm currently in Claude, and I told my AI assistant to give me 5 Midjourney prompts that have a 1980s female detective aesthetic, and these are the 5 prompts that it gave me. Now, the only real thing that I want to do is to get an idea of what my reference character would look like based on the type of images that the prompt gives me. Over here in Midjourney, I ran many different prompts, and you can see the outputs right there, but the one that I settled on was this particular prompt right here that gave me this particular look. Now again, I'm not going to do the method of, hey, here's my reference image, here's the image that I want to do the style transfer on, essentially swap out my reference image for the chick in the photo. I'm not going to do that. The only thing I'm going to do is take the exact prompt, copy it, and then I'm going to go back over to Claude and tell my AI assistant which prompt I wanted to use for what I call the identity lock transfer. So I say, hey, this prompt worked out really well. Here's the prompt that you gave me. Now give me the Nano Banana prompt to use with my reference character. Now there's a lot of things going on in the background because I actually have a project within Claude that essentially has a bunch of files in it, and it remembers a lot of stuff that I'm doing, so it knows what to give me. But you could pretty much use this exact same prompt, and if I remember, I will put it in the description or in the comments below this video, and we can read through the prompt once we start to build out the nodes in Freepik. Okay, so I'm back in Freepik, and what I wanted to do is you can either click here to pick your node, or you can right click on the canvas and then pick one. The one that I'm going to pick is text, and I'm just going to click that right there. And the reason why I'm clicking text instead of the assistant is because what the assistant does is takes your prompt and then does some magical stuff, and then it gives you a version of your prompt, which could be something that you could use if you wanted. But since I've already got my AI tuned to give me the exact prompt I need, I don't need the AI assistant adding more to it. And essentially, my understanding of that AI assistant would be akin to just flipping this on and then it enhances your prompt. So it probably does more stuff. I've not researched it that much, but when I did use it, that's exactly what happened. I gave it a prompt and then it mixed it with its own version of the prompt. So that's not what I want to do with this particular exercise. So once again, I dropped a text node onto the canvas, and if you want to zoom in on this, I'm on a Mac, I'm holding the control key, and I am on a magic pad as well, magic trackpad. So I'm making the canvas zoom in by using my two fingers. I'm assuming if you're using a mouse, you would just use your scroll wheel on the mouse, and I'm going to paste in the prompt that we copied from earlier. So let me do something right quick so that this all fits. Okay, so here's the second piece of this. We've got the reference image, and now we have the prompt. Another thing we're going to want to do is to generate an image from all of this. So we're going to add this right here. I'm going to move this like this so that everything's close to one another, just to keep everything on the same screen. I'm going to flip this to Google Nano Banana, and I'm also going to change this to 3 because that's the same image dimensions I use for the reference image. Now, one of the things you'll notice as you hover over these elements are some of these things that pop up on the side. There's something right here. If you click on this, it shows what's popping up here. These are the connections to where your nodes would go. For this particular workflow, we need the following. We need the text node to connect to the text node input on the image generator so that the prompt is flowing into this box that's going to generate the image. But note that if you ran this, it would only generate what it thinks you're trying to do based on this prompt, but it's still not right because it's saying edit this image. And it's like, what image? So you want to also make sure that your reference image is attached to the image that you're generating. And that's as simple as that gets. And I'm going to do this just so you kind of get an idea of how everything is flowing. Let's see, maybe we do something like this, just so you can better visualize what's going on. So again, nothing connects to the text box other than the text box connecting to the image generator. And so how does the prompt actually read? It says, refer to the attached image. Edit the image to a cinematic full body portrait. Keep the same person's face, facial structure, hair, and physique exactly. Do not alter body portions, muscle tone, or expression. As you will see, both Nano Banana and Seedream, with Seedream usually being the worst, will not keep these portions. I found Nano Banana gets it the closest, but it won't be an exact mirror match. And that's something I'm still testing, so be on the lookout for that. It also says, replace the wardrobe with authentic 1980s detective power suit styling, tailored charcoal gray wool blazer with prominent padded shoulders, which was a style in the 80s, and matching straight leg trousers. I'm not going to read the entire prompt. You can pause the video and read it yourself. And again, if I remember, I'll drop this Nano Banana prompt in the description or the comments of the video. So I'm going to zoom back out and show you how this workflow goes. When you start these workflows from the very beginning, you want to start from the top, and that's this image right here. All of the information from this node, from the image into the node, is going to flow into the image generator, and then the same thing is going to happen with this text box, because this is going to kick off the entire workflow as you'll see right now. And here's the outputted image, and what I'm going to do is expand this as large as it can go if it'll let me. I don't think it will. Let's see, I'm going to try one more time. Nope. So what I'm just going to do is zoom in on the photo, or actually I forgot, shot, what you can do is double click on the photo, and yeah, that looks very good. That looks pretty much exactly like that woman, but she's looking off camera with a candid look. That's probably in the prompt itself, because when you think about narrative filmmaking, you want these off camera gazes. You don't want the character looking directly into the image lens, unless you're doing something like breaking the fourth wall, which is what they do a lot in the Deadpool movies, where he's looking at the camera and he's talking to you. And as you can see, the leg tone does not match what I originally generated using Stable Diffusion, but she's not a twig like what I would get out of Midjourney, to where I can't put my own special sauce into the mix. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and show you something else. If you like that and you wanted to see more of what you'd get, or maybe you didn't like that generation, since this particular node already has this information and this information, you can just rerun everything from here. And so here's the second look of that woman. Again, not too bad either. The face lock and the style transfer is working perfectly. The hands are not that great right here, so you know, maybe I'd roll this a couple more times if I wanted to get some more looks, which by the way is unlimited up to 800 images. Then the unlimited slows down a bit, but then you can start using your own credits. And the other cool thing is they have this feature to where you can see all of your different generations on this particular image generator node. And if I was trying to storyboard out this sequence, I could leave it on this image because I really like the way this image came out. So that's how simple a particular node workflow could be using Freepik and Nano Banana. And since we're right here, I can just go ahead and show you what this would look like with Seedream. So I'm going to add another node, and I'm going to keep that at Seedream. I'm going to change this to 2.3. And what you have to do is make sure that you also hook up the reference image as well as this text prompt box node to this image generator. And I'm just going to run it from here, because if I ran it from the text box node, it's going to run both of these. So let's just go ahead and hit the run button. So this is how the image came out looking with Seedream 4. And the problem with Seedream is that it takes things very literal. For instance, there's something about studio lighting, and then there's always like some lights with barn doors on them in the background or something, or you can see that this is a studio light in the background, something that you would see in a photography studio. You see how the shadow is casting. Also, I really don't like the overall look and aesthetic of this generation. One thing Seedream is really great at is keeping the face looking very much the same, but in another video where I walk through Seedream extensively, you'll see that that's not always the case. Out of the two, Seedream usually always 95% of the time has the face start to distort. But I wanted you to go ahead and see what that looked like just for your reference. Now let me walk you through a workflow that I've already been working on, just to show you very quickly what you can achieve with this new image consistency tool and workflow. Okay, so I realize there's a lot going on here, and because everything's kind of all over the place in terms of the nodes, I'm not going to walk you through exactly where each node is connecting. I'm just going to show you what is possible and the reasoning behind what you're seeing here on the screen. And then we'll go back to the previous simple workflow that I just showed you and build something like this out so that you can see how it's done step by step. The goal of showing you this particular workflow that I built out is just to show you what's possible when you're thinking about storyboarding sequences, because what you're seeing right here are basically sequences using the reference character that you see on the right. Now I'm going to zoom in over here to this particular sequence, and the way it's running is from top to bottom. And I'm not going to read all of the prompts, but basically let me just tell you what's happening. She's supposed to be in an intense argument with her, well, Claude gave me the prompt of partner. So she's looking in this direction. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. And we can debate the eye direction, but that's something you can always just re-roll until you get something that you like. And again, I already did some of this with another generation within that same generator, and that one didn't have a person in it, which is okay, but I liked this one better, so I kept that in this storyboard sequence. Now down here, the argument has moved to the living room, and again, her eyes are not facing in the right direction. Same thing with her head. I would probably need to go and modify the prompt a bit more. As you can see, I ran this thing like 16 times, so this was the best I could get it. And if you got creative, maybe she's having an argument with her parents, and maybe this is her brother right here, so maybe that wouldn't be a partner. Maybe that's just her having an argument with her family, and she could be talking to someone else that's off screen. Maybe it's her dad, or maybe it's her mother. And then the final scene is the argument's over and she's walking out the door, and that was the end of that sequence for what I was trying to do with that. Just wanted to get an idea of how something like this could work for storyboarding, and hopefully that's very clear to you now. Same thing with this particular sequence right here. It's running from top to bottom, but the only thing I wanted to test with this was the different camera angles and keeping the woman looking exactly the same. So in this scene, we started with a medium 2 shot. In this particular shot, we moved in for a chest up framing. Still the same woman, arguably the same person that's off camera, but you will realize that you can potentially run into problems because you're going to have to get the AI to help you to imagine what this person would look like in a reverse angle of this shot, meaning the camera would be pointing to this guy. So again, that comes down to your prompting. In the prompt itself, it says over the shoulder shot from behind, opposite person, but this could be just as fine as well. And then for the final shot in that sequence, I told it to give me a tight close-up, and this looks really good as well. And I'll show you the final thing that I did with this particular testing. This was just to show the same woman in different scenes of this particular movie. And you can think of this a couple of ways. If you were thinking about a music montage scene in this particular film, then you've got her in a record store looking through record albums, and you're still keeping that 1970s aesthetic. And then here's one with her in a cafe at the jukebox machine. Or these could be ideas for individual scenes. You know, maybe she's at the jukebox and she's going to eat lunch, or maybe she's going to meet a date, or maybe she's already on a date. You get the picture. Now, the one thing I need to tell you is that for these style transfers to happen consistently throughout your generations, there's a special type of way that you have to connect the nodes. And maybe this gives it away because you see all of these damn nodes going all over the place. And that's why we're going to go back to the simple workflow so that I can show you how to connect all of this up properly. Okay, so now we're back at the simple workflow, and I've moved some things around just to make room and to make things a bit more visually easier for you to follow along. And another thing you can do if you want to move things at the same time, I'm on the Mac, you can hold the command key and you can drag your mouse. It's going to highlight all the objects at the same time, and you can just drag them into a place like that. But actually, let me lay this out like this. So again, reference image going to this node and text prompt going to this node as well to get this image. Now here's where things can get a bit tricky, so just follow along. What I want to do is show this woman in various different scenes in this storyboard. And what I've done is I've gone back over to Claude and said, awesome. I've attached my reference image. I just took a screenshot, dropped it in. It probably didn't need it, but I wanted to keep it grounded. And I said, this is my new reference image. Give me some ideas of scenes to place her in. One should be a homicide scene. And so it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different scenes. I'm not going to go through all of them. I am just going to take this first one, which is night homicide investigation. Back in Freepik, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add another text node, and I'm going to drop that prompt in here. I'm going to resize it so that we see the entire prompt. And this is where we start to get jiggy with it. So you see that the prompt says, keep the same person's identity, face, and outfit exactly, and then what environment / scenario to place the character in. So this is what we need to do. If you remember, I said that if you hover over these nodes, they'll give you some indications of where you can connect potential nodes. What we want to do is connect this node to another image generator node. And here's another way that you can do it. You can drag this down here and the menu is going to pop up, and I'm going to select image generator. And the reason you're wanting to do that is because you want to continue to build off of this look and style to keep things consistent. What you then want to do is to connect this to this particular node like that. What I want to make sure to do is to change this to Google Nano Banana, and I'm going to change this aspect ratio to 16:9. Let me make sure in the prompt that there's nothing in here specifying a good. There's no aspect ratio specified. It doesn't really throw things off. This usually overrides that, but I just want to keep things clean. And for this, we're going to run it from this text node because these are new instructions. So again, just so we're clear, we're building off of this particular look for continuity, and we're giving it new instructions. Let's see what happens. So this is the image that generated. I'm going to blow it up, and that scene looks pretty cinematic. The thing we have to check for is the badge the same, and if her face is the same if she was looking a different direction. So let me do this. Let me go back up here and click on this. That does look like the exact same badge as the one that the woman has over here. And the way I'm zooming in on that is I'm holding the command key on the Mac, and again I'm scrolling on my magic trackpad to bring it in. Now the one thing you'll note is that because the only two models that have this functionality are Google Nano Banana and Seedream 4, you're pretty much locked into their image gen model. Google's image gen is not that bad, so it's okay, but there are other advanced ways of doing this, such as if I went to Midjourney and I generated an image and then I just wanted to place her in the scene that I generated from Midjourney, that could work, but then you have to make sure that your prompt specifies that the height proportion is correct, because you may get an image to where the woman is just large in the screen and the background just doesn't make sense, or she's too small, but it is possible. And let's go ahead and do one more prompt. Let's look at the bonus scene, Captain's Office Confrontation. So let's see what this scene does. I've not read the prompt, but maybe she's yelling at her captain. Let's see what happens. So again, you'd want to create a new text node, or you can just duplicate it and then bring this down here, but you'd need to break this node because we're going to do a new one. And I'm just going to delete this, paste this in. Okay, we have that. And then we can just do a new image generator, change this to Google Nano Banana 16 by 9. I'm gonna do that. And here's another tip. It could potentially, I guess, work if you continued the node off of this image right here, but because this image is the reference, which is just a plain background and sort of a character profile, I want to keep building off of that just to be on the safe side. But you're welcome to test it by just having the node go from the previous image to this image right here. You would absolutely want to do that if this was a sequence to where, you know, maybe she's talking to some officers. But I believe in the previous workflow that I showed you, I think I still did everything off of the reference image. So I'm just going to continue doing that. And I say reference, but I mean the new reference. This was obviously the reference image. So again, we've got everything hooked up. Pretty simple. Let's hit the run button. And so this was the image that generated. Let's click into it. It's okay. I don't love it. So let me just try running this again. And I'm just going to run it from the image right here. This was the next image that generated. Let me click into it. And that actually looks very good. I like the lighting coming from the windows. This looks like a very cinematic scene. So when I'm looking at this storyboard, I would want to leave the image on this one to remind me that this particular scene worked out the best in terms of the aesthetic and the look. And one more thing I'll show you. Let's go ahead and upscale this image. So I'm going to drag this out here. I'm going to click on the image upscaler. And these are the options that you have within Freepik. You got the precision and you've got their older version one. I've been using the precision model, and the magnific sublime one is their newest one. I don't love how it comes out all the time, but we'll go ahead and run it and see how it runs with this particular image itself. This is going to cost me 90 credits, and let's go ahead and hit the run button. So just keep in mind the workflow in Seedream and Nano Banana, unlimited runs, but when you start doing other things like upscaling and video gen, those are going to cost you credits. So here's the upscaled image. And again, I don't like the way this upscaler plays with the images. They may still need to do some work on this model. I'll do one more thing. I'll go back to the previous version and let's just keep everything like this. And let me go ahead and run it again. And the image has been upscaled. This is what it looks like. And the purpose of their models is to keep the image looking exactly the same as the image that you generated. And this is a lot better, in my opinion, than the newer model that Magnific released on Freepik. But you are absolutely not locked into using their upscaler. If you have access to something like Topaz Photo AI, which I do, you could absolutely just take this image, download it, and again, you can bring it into Topaz Photo AI and then upscale your image there. And in my opinion, Topaz just does a better job of the overall look of the image, especially with the option to recover the faces. Now, what's the difference between doing all of this with nodes versus doing the exact same thing on the front end of Freepik, which is essentially how it was done before this new tool they released? And to be honest with you, there isn't a difference. It's just that the workflow helps helps you to get a better overall picture of what exactly your potential short film could look like by letting you storyboard everything out. You can remember which prompts you use. You can iterate the prompts on the fly. To be honest with you, going forward, this is the method that I'm going to be using. But just to give you an idea of how this would work on this end, I'm using this image as the reference image for the woman that you see right here. And all I did was attach that to the image reference box for, this says Seedream because I tested Seedream, and as you can see, I do not like how those photos came out. Google Nano Banana is just really killing it right now in terms of the overall aesthetic and the look. I'm rooting for Seedream though, but you know, they still have some work they need to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm already going to go into one of the images that I already generated from that reference image. I'm going to click edit image, and I'm going to make sure Google Nano Banana is selected, and I'm going to set that to 2, and I'm going to drop in this prompt from the confrontation with her captain, and then the only thing you would do is hit this right here to generate, and what you're going to get is some previews of what this would look like. Now, of these two that generated, I would say I like this one the best, but it does look like the face drifted a bit compared to the original image. Now, I'm not saying because we're doing it via this method that's why it happened. It may have just been what happens on this roll. So you could always just click this more button and see what else you get. But the other thing I need to point out is this: I currently do not have the option to change the aspect ratio. So this particular scene was in 2:3. If you remember over in the workflow, you can change the aspect ratio to a different aspect ratio from the reference image. So it doesn't matter that I started with 16:9 in this sequence. I could easily change that to 2:3. And these were the other two images that generated, and I would say this one probably looks a lot more closer to this particular image right here. So again, you could do the exact same thing on the front side of Freepik, but you don't get all the other extra cool shit that comes with using the nodes and the workflow. Hope that makes sense. So what are you guys' thoughts? Is Freepik Spaces something you're going to be adding to your overall AI narrative cinematic storyboarding workflow? Do you feel this tool would help you better visualize how to structure your cinematic scenes and your overall cinematic story? Let me know in the comments below this video. And if you're not a student in the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook, we are about to do a deep dive on how to make an AI narrative film step by step, combining that with all of the other training in the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook that shows you how to not only create attractive characters for your AI narrative films, but a very practical way to monetize everything that you're doing so that you could use the money you get from AI filmmaking to pay for all of these subscriptions and your AI film productions. Then be sure to scan the QR code on your screen or click below this video. Look for the link in the pinned comments or the description of this video and enroll today. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button to let YouTube know that you enjoy video tutorials like this and that you want to be alerted to the next one that I release. Once again, my name is Paul Donis Maximus. Thanks for checking out this video. Please join me in the next one.